All right, guys. Can somebody pass this out to everyone? Aiden, thank you. Okay. Did y'all have a good weekend? No? Okay. All right, guys. Let's go ahead and get started. Connor and everybody else. Y'all did pretty good on the quiz. Good job. I'm going to go over those sentences real quick, so you should have put it away. Yeah, so we finally have a full week again. I don't know if why I say finally. Last week was crazy, but the week before that was probably full. No, maybe. Anyway, guys, what is it? It's like I don't want to say it's 4 weeks till spring break. That actually sounds like a lot, but it's 4 weeks and then the spring break and then like the year's kind of over. I don't know, sort of. I feel like April and May go pretty fast. So we're actually going to start chapter 13 today in terms of getting the notes. The homework, guys, so I might want to write it down. What does it say up there? What page? 109. Thank you.
Wait, doing another way of
What?
Doing another way of fun 30.
What page?
No, sorry.
109.
All right, guys, so homework this week is out of the textbook. It's good old fashioned extracutationes on page 109. You're going to have to take notes today, all right, to kind of like understand the new concepts. Chapter 13 actually introduces a lot of things, but none of them are too bad. We're going to practice chapter 12 a little more today and tomorrow because I think y'all still aren't quite used to the perfect tenses. So we're going to look at a story about the Trojan War today and tomorrow. You'll notice that today, unfortunately, is not really a Myth Monday, Reception Tuesday. Well, it's a Myth Monday a little bit, but after last week where we just had like 2 days and one of them was devoted to architecture, I think I want to like have just like a normal Monday, and maybe I'll have a reception corner on Thursday of this week to kind of break up the week a little more. But yeah, it's just like after last week, it'd be weird to not get back to the Latin. All right, so that's the homework, chapter 13. We'll do a little more chapter 12 practice because y'all need it. But chapter 13 vocab quiz will be on Friday. And, yep, okay. All right, so perfect tense isn't going to go away, guys. We saw a perfect tense verb on this quiz, right? It was the third plural. Yeah, so ERU and T should really start to stand out to you guys. But the pluperfects and future perfects are going to be showing up too. We saw, well, I'll talk about it in a second, but there's future perfect in the second quiz sentence. So remember, guys, like if you're looking at the perfect endings, they're mostly I-based, but the third plural one weirdly has this E and this R show up. But it's really like distinct. So when you see a mise runt or kitterunt, that should like, hopefully you can be like, oh, I know what verbs those are. This means to fall, this means to lose. And then immediately with that, think that it's like perfect tense. Okay. So this was like too many youths on account of what case was patria? Anyone out loud?
That would be ablative.
Yeah, those verbs are mentioned ablative should be really fast for you guys. You see a macro over the A, like it's ablative. For the sake of their fatherland, they fell and they lost their lives. I'm kind of adding there. It's not technically in the Latin, so you didn't need to put it either. So lost their lives. How else could you say this? You could say have fallen, have died even, have lost lives. That's about it. Lost lives or have lost lives. Any questions on that one? Both verbs were perfect tense. Guys, if you said past tense, that's an issue. The reason when we first introduced the imperfect tense, I would let you say that that's past tense if it weren't for the fact that we have 3 past tenses. So that's the whole reason why you got to be like specific about if it's perfect, imperfect, or pluperfect. We have 3 different past tenses now. So that past doesn't cut it. And if you put future or present, that seems strange, or even imperfect, because this is the chapter about the perfect tense. So it's going to be one of the perfect tenses, perfect, plu, or future. And this is just like normal perfect. So yeah, and I've been warning y'all, like, this is the new default tense. Perfect, like just regular perfect tense, not future or plu. It's the most common tense that we're going to have like for a while. All right, this is the one that I made up. It was a little weird. I don't think anyone in this class quite correct the last verb's code. But remember, guys, I want you to split sentences up. I think a lot of y'all, since you were kind of like put on the spot, maybe you felt rushed. You didn't like spend that much time on this as you should have. What is the subject, Kylie, of the first part? So hopefully y'all can see like, oh, there's a comma after a verb, and then there's an S. There's definitely two parts. So you take one part at a time, not together. So what's the subject, Kylie? Yeah, it's definitely Caesar, but some people even mess that part up a little bit. But he's the first noun. We're saying he's a pronoun, proper noun rather, and that's him in his nominative form. David or Carson, what case is Romam?
That looks like first declension.
Yeah, it is first declension accusative. So it's what kind of object, probably Nelius or Antonio. So Caesar's the subject. He's going to verb something. What function or case, or if Romam is accusative, what is it probably doing? What kind of object? Yeah, it's a direct object. So we'll come back to cum copiis, but just the first part is Caesar conquered Rome. Okay? So don't forget like the basic Latin 101 that we've built up to this point. Like, yeah, we're adding new verb tenses and stuff, but this is super typical, guys, that a subject verbs a direct object. And that's how it's ordered for us as English speakers. But it shouldn't blow our minds that a direct object is right next to Caesar. A lot of people thought this meant like Roman, but I glossed it. It was right below the sentence that says Roma, Romi is Rome, the city. To say something's Roman, that's Romanus, Romana, Romana. So it's like a different word. But that was glossed. So just people rushing, I guess. And then cum copiis, if you said with supplies, it's like okay. But I even glossed copia, copia. When it's plural, it's more like what? Anyone?
With
Troops. Yeah, Caesar conquered Rome with troops. You could also say has conquered Rome. All right. And then I glossed Winkera, sorry, to conquer. I think some people thought it was Vini o venire to come, like Veni Vidi Vici. Maybe you mixed that up because of Veni Vidi Vici, which is tragic. And therefore, now it looks like maybe we could be our subject. Notice we don't even technically need. I thought that would make things easier for you guys to see that we is the subject, the verb is first plural. So we would have known that anyway. Can anybody figure out what tense ama verimus is? The fact that it's this tense makes this almost sound like it doesn't make sense, but
Would be plural perfect.
um,
I don't know.
that's just one of the prongs from the back of the room, Maddie. It's
No,
one of the perfects. Which
Would
one?
be future or plural?
Yeah, guys, this is that horrible future perfect. So that was rude of me to put the really rare future perfect. So it's not like has loved. It's not had loved. Pluper would be ERA in US. It's will have loved. So it sounds a little weird. It's going to be, and therefore we will have loved what? What's the direct object, anyone?
Caesar.
Yeah, he's third declension accusative, but that shouldn't look that much different than Roman being accused of being direct object. So in we, the subject will have loved Caesar for a long time. The will have loved part sounds kind of funky because like it's not a great place to whip out these future perfect. I had to wait to give it to my 9B kids, so I don't know if they would have done it. But only 2 kids out of the whole school on Friday translated it like it was future perfect. But some people were able to do that, so that was really impressive. Any questions on this? Pretty much everyone got 2.5 out of 5 on this, unless you just like didn't put anything, which is a shame because like at least trying is gonna do you better. But yeah, that's that nasty future perfect. I promise you won't see it too much. But ERI is the giveaway. If you see ERI,
what about that one ERO?
well, yeah, I know. Yeah, there's always something. So it's almost like the pluperfect rather didn't get access to ending in O. Like it had to get stuck with the weird M. So future gets the O for whatever reason. Then it's I after that. Where at least pluperfect it is ERA across the board, but it does happen to be ending in M in the first singular. But we're pretty used to first singular verbs ending in M sometimes. Now we're getting used to them ending in I, which is weird, but it's like very distinct. All right. Okay. Guys, get out your notebooks. We're going to be taking notes for the next like 20, 25 minutes. So we'll get to that story that was passed out to you by Aiden. We shall get to that by the end of class. It has to do with the Trojan War. But first, these are the notes on chapter 13. So when you do your homework this week, you might want to like be able to flip to these notes. I'm going to tell you what to write. Like, you don't, huh?
Cicero praised himself.
Yeah, you would, right?
Narcissist.
So we kind of have three different types of pronouns introduced this chapter. But guys, trust me, none of them are as bad as our personal pronouns from chapter 11 because there are so many of those, like I, you, we, y'all, they. And they're not as bad as hic or illa. Trust me. So make a little column for reflexive versus personal, and just put things about reflexive in the column on the left, things about personal on the right. Sometimes it might be a description of what it is. Sometimes it might be an example of what it is. But that is the first concept in chapter 13, is something called a reflexive pronoun. The good news is most of these look exactly like personal pronouns we already got.
Isn't that
Well, it's just like,
bad? Doesn't that make it more confusing if it looks like something else?
I get your point, but like, you'll know exactly when to translate it as though it's reflexive instead of personal based on the context. And that's what this first slide is about. So that's a good question, Connor. But like, we already kind of have these. It's just like, we'll translate them differently given the circumstances. So on one side, we have a sentence like, I praise you. Whereas if if I'm praising me, we wouldn't say I praise me. We'd say I praise myself, okay? So myself is just the reflexive version of me. Like, you could say I praise me, but it sounds goofy, right? It just like sounds sort of wrong. That's because it's supposed to be I praise myself. You're supposed to be making this second pronoun reflexive. Like this, I is already a pronoun. It's the subject, though. But basically what this reflexive pronoun concept is going to be is that, like, the person of the subject, if it matches the person of a pronoun in the sentence, then that second pronoun needs to be reflexive. So that's what's happening here, right? Like, both of these are first person. So it's the same person. And we just like stick self to the end of a pronoun in English to make it reflexive, basically. Whereas, like, Cicero praises you, Cicero praises me. But if Cicero praises himself, you got to add the self. Because if you say Cicero praises him, that sounds like some second guy, like a guy who's not Cicero that Cicero's praising.
True.
And we'll get into what this looks like in Latin in a little
What if
bit.
it say Cicero praised himself?
Myself? Yep.
Myself.
Myself. Praise myself. Yeah, so you wouldn't need to, right, Connor? Like, we wouldn't need to whip out myself if Cicero was the subject. We only have to do that because I is the subject and I is the same as me, so me will become myself.
Cicero praised reflective.
But yeah, we wouldn't say Cicero praised myself. We would only say, like, I praise myself. We wouldn't say I praised himself. We would say he praised himself. If that's confusing to you, it'll probably get less confusing. All right. So let's look at some Latin versions of these. Ego me. Oh, no. I still have that typo. Jeez, that's so basic. These are old slides, so it's weird to find an old one. Okay, so on the left, we still have this reflexive example. On the right, we have a personal example. So ego me laudo. Of course, this ego is redundant. We don't technically need that ego. If we looked at laudo, we would know that the subject is I, so it's first person singular. But it just like further demonstrates that. Whereas if you praise me, we're going to translate me as just me. Okay. So all I'm saying basically with this first little concept is that, like, just know to translate something reflexively if you need to. And as long as you're saying it out loud or like sort of out loud in your head, you'll figure that out. So that's really not too difficult. Like, again, if you translated this as I praise me, you'd probably, as long as you spend enough time on that, you'd be like, oh, that sounds a little weird. What if I make it myself? And now it doesn't sound weird, right? Like, that's all this is. Okay, reflexive pronouns refer to the subject. This is kind of important. You probably don't have to write it down. And cannot be the subject. So these pronouns are becoming reflexive because they agree in person with the subject. They themselves are not going to be the subject. So you would never have a subject of sentence like myself verbs the direct object. Yourself verbs, like, that doesn't happen. When it's a subject, it's just a personal pronoun. But when it's a direct object or anything else besides the subject, it can really be reflexive. Okay, I still need to fix these real quick. But we have these other examples here. Okay. Is anyone else like very excited to like get home again and like get back to what they were doing during the weekend? Anyone? Okay, so Cicero. This is the difference. So we'll talk about. This is a horrible green. I'm sorry for your retinas right now. I'm really sorry, but like you'll learn about this pronoun. I'll show you in a chart in a second. Sui, sibi, say is this third person reflexive pronoun, which we translate as himself, versus am, which we've had am for a little while, right? So if we wanted to say Cicero praises some other dude, we use am. Let me make it an actual legible color that doesn't burn y'all's retinas. Versus if he is praising himself, which let's be honest, he's the kind of guy who does like to praise himself, then we would use his other new pronoun that I'll show y'all in about another slide or so.
Wait, did you color these ones?
They're all just colored weirdly. These are old slides, so they don't have any like, anyway. It's notes. All right, here are the reflexive pronouns, guys. As you will see, these are, by and large, the personal ones that we've had since chapter 11. And as you can also see, the nominatives are blanked out. Like, it reminds you of what the nominative personal pronoun is. But because that'll never happen reflexively, like we'll never have a sentence where like, myself, verb's the direct object. They're just kind of blocked out. But yeah, we have me, of myself. Me would be to myself instead of to me if it's reflexive. And then may, instead of being me, will be myself. Don't make this too hard. Because this is something that comes up in like you get may as a vocabulary in like chapter 2 or 3. And even back then they tell you that may can either be me or it can be myself. So like this is all about the context when it is going to be myself, reflexive. So notes, we don't have ourselves as a subject, we have ourselves as a direct object. And like to ourselves, preposition plus ourselves, all of ourselves, notes three. To-y is like of yourself. To yourself, etc. And then the third person ones are different. Okay, so we actually won't use is, a, and id, which are she, he, and it. The nastiest of our personal pronouns, right? The ones over here. Those will stay personal. If you want to do a third person reflexive kind of thing, like he or she praises himself or herself, you use sui, sibi, say. All right, and that's sui, sibi, say right there. So now we got may, we got tay, and we got say. The beautiful thing about sui, sibi, say, those are the names of my 3 kids.
Sounded so weird.
Those are names that I'll use one day. But I like third person probably the best. What's cool about it is that it can be singular or plural. So sui is the genitive, singular or plural. That'd be of himself or herself or itself. You're not going to know if it's himself, herself, or itself until you are translating it and you know if like your subject is a he or a she. And sometimes you get to decide when it's like a drop third person subject. But yeah, that's not too bad, right? And then sibi is going to be to himself, or it could be plural, it could be to or for themselves. And then say is himself, herself, itself, themself, depending on what the subject is like. And it could be accusative or ablative. Any questions about that? It makes more sense once you see the context. But like that's what was happening in this sentence. That like this is Cicero just praising him as in a second dude who isn't Cicero. This is Cicero praises himself, meaning he's like praising himself. All right, let's do some examples. Devin, what do you think this tu te laudavisti? The laudavisti, that's new. That's new. What tense is it? Isti. What the heck is isti? What does lauda mean? To so praise. What person is it? Is it first, second, or third? So this is perfect tense, guys. That isti is a new perfect tense, huh? No, this is second. So it matches to as the nominative for its subject. So it's who praised. So what is tu te laudavisti? Anyone? If it's second person, and we have 2 there screaming out at us what the subject is. Grace, Caitlin, Laura. Who? Huh? You praise Tay?
You praise yourself.
Yes, yourself, right? We wouldn't say, oh, this is y'all remind, like, that isti, it is weird, it's new, but that is the very recognizable second person singular perfect tense. So it's just you verb or have verb if you want. You add an S to make it y'all.
Why do we have to remember?
You praised yourself. Yeah, because like if you try to translate it as you praised you, that sounds weird, right? You praise yourself does not sound weird the same way that you praise yourself does. So again, this isti matches to as a subject. This is the you part, whereas te here we're not going to translate as you, which we normally do. We're going to translate it as yourself because it needs to be reflexive. So y'all see that, like the subject second person, the direct object is second person. Thus, the direct object needs to be reflexive, not just personal. You, if it was you praised you, that'd be translating it personally. But that sounds weird. We need to take it reflexively. So think of like an actual mirror reflecting the subject. That's what's happening, right? You have to like treat it differently to say that like this is a reflection. This is not. If you say you praised you, it's like which one's the subject at that point? Like you're just reusing the same word. So you're saying like that the second one is reflexive by translating it that way. Cicero te laudavit. What would that be? Don't overthink it. Anyone? Danny, Aiden, John, Connor, Caden. What would Kikero te laudavit be? Don't overthink it.
Cicero praised himself.
Praise himself? Te. It's just te. Huh?
For you.
Yeah, you. Yeah, so I'm just giving you an example like that's going back to personal. Because we moved the subject out of the second person. We made it a third person. We made it Cicero.
He's praising you on a personal level.
I guess so, yeah. So if the subject was Cicero or a he or a she or an I, then we just translate te as you, as we always would. We only have to translate it as yourself when you is also the subject. Yeah, does that make sense? Okay. Nos audavemos nos. Who pray? Who prays what? Maddie, Richard, Nathan, Jake, Kylie, Natalie. Who prays who? Nos audavemos nos. We
praise
praised we.
what?
Would it be we praised we guys? Or
we
would it?
praise ourselves.
Yes. Okay. So it wouldn't even be we praised us. Even we praised us would be bad. It's we praised ourselves. Okay. Again, just like in the first sentence, like you normally wouldn't probably see to or nos here. You would just need to like look at the verbs and see that they're first or second person or whatever they are. But it's just there to like reiterate what's going on. But yeah, you don't want to say like nos when it's a direct object. Usually it's us, but not when it's reflecting the subject. It's the same person as the subject. Because we praised us sounds weird. We praised ourselves does not. So yeah, it's a lot of this is like saying it out loud and like just like checking to see if it sounds weird or not. And like you would have to think, you're like, wait, it's not us selves. We don't say us selves. Oh, it's ourselves. Okay, got it. Moving on. Kikero, meanwhile, Kikero nos laudavit is just Cicero. Out loud, anyone?
Cicero praised us.
Yeah, Cicero praised us. Good, exactly. So there it is us. Ego mihi literas scripsi. Okay, this scripsi, this is kind of new in that it is a first person singular perfect tense ending. So Caitlin, this would be I. What does this verb actually mean? It's perfect tense. I what? What is scripsi? Huh?
I write.
And if it's perfect tense, it won't be I write. It'll be I wrote. So this is I wrote. So remember, guys, it doesn't look like it because it's new. You're having to get used to it. But these perfect tense verbs when they're first singular, they end in I. It's weird. So I wrote letters to me? To myself. Yeah, that's all it is. So normally me, he would be to me. But here, since ego, or since I is the subject, it's gonna be myself. I don't know if it's depressing. They say when you get really worked up, you're supposed to write like a letter, maybe not to yourself, but like to someone without actually sending it. Like you can like say all these like mean things without actually facing the consequences.
I would send it. She knows.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, and why do I have the weirdest glitches. So okay, Cicero mihi literas scripsit. I need to make it third person. So Cicero wrote letters to me. Okay. And these last two guys, what would that be? Cicero praise say? Anyone?
Cicero praised him.
Cicero praised him?
Them.
So no, Cicero praised him would be to use the good old A-E-U-M. A-O. Whereas this is reflexive, so it's Cicero praised what?
Himself.
Himself. Yeah, the one we saw to begin with. All right, guys. So what about this? Caesar served. What's the first one? That first one's just him. That first one's him, where the second one is himself. Okay, or was protecting. Okay, you can go with that. So yeah, sui sibi stay say. Just remember there is no nominative because reflexive pronouns don't have a nominative. And then if you start with sui, you can like say it like almost like it's like a little chant. Sui sibi stay say. Hopefully you can remember. You just got 4 cases, and there's the same for singular and plural. Caesar was protecting himself. What about Cleopatra say servavit? So here say was himself to reflect Caesar, but now it's Cleopatra, huh? How do we translate say here? Cleopatra was protected.
Cleopatra protected
Herself, yeah. So even though it's still say, because it's now reflecting someone who is feminine, it's going to be herself instead of himself, like it was in the Cicero sentence. So that's easy. I just want to point it out because it seems like it's worth pointing out. Whereas, like, if she was praising a guy, it would just be am. Or if she was praising a lady who wasn't her, am. Yeah, which is what I should make this. All right. What changed there? I don't even know what changed. Okay. Let's do one more of these. Cleopatra wrote letters to, we don't say to herself, it's Mihi. To Mihi.
To
myself.
And it would actually just be to me, yeah. I know I was like leading y'all to that. And they're about something. They're about him, I guess. About him. It has to be masculine.
It was
so.
it. Ao is it.
Ao could be it, but it could also be him. It can't be her. That'd be A with a long A. All right. Now, if she wrote letters to you, that'd be personal. But if she wrote letters to herself, that would be Sibi. Okay, that's when we bust out Sibi. Now she's writing letters to herself. All right. So there they are. The second part, that's just the first part of this chapter. There's kind of 3 parts. My favorite is the third thing. The second thing, guys, it's more adjectives that we've already had. So if you don't know these 4 adjectives by now, you need to. Yeah, I'd say you pretty much need to. Yesterday, maybe actually 3 months ago, you need to. But Mayus is mine, Noster is our, Tuus is your, Investor is y'all's is. Which we also, we just say your. Like, we don't differentiate a singular or plural, but like, they exist in Latin, a different second person singular and plural possessive adjective. That's what you call these things. They're like possessive adjectives, right? They kind of feel genitive-y, but technically they're in whatever case they need to be to like match the noun they're going with. And now just like we got sui sibi say for third person, we're gonna get third person reflexive possessive adjectives. I'll explain what that means. But it's just sua, sua, suum. And that'll be, again, depending on the gender of the subject, what either his own or her own or its own or their own. This is different than eus, because we have eus in the genitive spot for a personal pronouns, and that's like his or her. But again, this is like, if you want to say his own or her own, you would use sua, sua, suum. And again, this is just like what sounds best in English. Ego amo, so I love, meum librum. We can add own to that. Now, would it sound fine, Miss Dugan, if we said, I love my book? Yeah, that actually sounds fine. Like, that sounds normal. But if you want to, like, really iterate that it's my own book, like, that's really mine, you just add the own. So that's what this is mostly. If that like, one of these 4, now technically 5, reflexive, possessive adjectives, that's the worst thing about these guys is that that's like what they're called, reflexive, possessive adjectives. That is way too many words. Right, Connor? You need to like chill out. So, yeah, you just add an own. You basically add an own after the my or the your or the his or the her to make it reflect the fact that it's agreeing with the person of the subject. So you love, so ego amos, I love tu amos, you love your own book. You're supposed to add the own. It doesn't feel that important, but like, that's one of the things this chapter. And then I love your book. It would just be your here because the subject is now I instead of you. All right. That's the worst one because it's so boring. And that's Sua Sua Suum. Sua Sua Suum is new, guys. You might not need to write it down though, because like, what declensions are y'all seeing here? That the stem is just SU. It's just first and second declension endings, guys. Okay, that's all that is. It should look very familiar. So again, depending on the gender of the subject, it'll be like his own or her own or its own. In any case it needs to be. And that's different than Eus over here in the pink, his or her, or Aorum or Arum or their. But Suarum, Suarum are their own. All right. Okay. Is there any practice for this? Nope. Wait, where are my intensives? Oh my gosh.
Intensive. That's very intense.
Okay, there's one other kind of pronoun, but it's not. So I'll start tomorrow, but that's okay. I can tell you guys are all noted out. So we'll look at intensive pronouns tomorrow. If you try to do your homework and essay today, it might throw you off, but they're really easy. Okay, now let's get to the story that was passed out. This is about a poor man. Haven't we talked about Laocoon?
Yeah, we have.
But like, why?
I know. Because we did.
When did he come up? Maybe.
I felt like we did him recently, but it was during e-learning. It was during e-learning, so
Which is
the
weird.
chapter we did during e-learning was when we got it.
That would have been chapter 7. So, okay, Laocoon must have had a story in chapter 7-ish, if Carson is to be trusted, which I do think you're right, Carson. Connor, chill. Like, chill. Yeah, it's really annoying. But yeah, so this is about the Trojan War. This is actually something that happens right at the end of the Trojan War. It doesn't show up in Iliad, which is the big epic poem all about the Trojan War. But instead, Virgil in Aeneid, which has a flashback to the end of the Trojan War, he talks about it. Okay, and it's about Laocoon, and we've talked about him before. But now we have a full story, so follow along on your reading. Who can read in Latin this first sentence?
I can.
Gracie,
No, let's have Kate, please. Thank you. Good. So what's the subject here, Caden? Yeah, that is Graici, okay? And that's like Greeks, as in Greek people. That's kind of like y'all were thinking Roma in the quiz sentence was Roman, but it's just Rome. Graecia is Greece, the place, whereas like Graicus, Graeca, the adjective is Greek. So Greeks, what? Who can put the rest together? Maybe come back to Cum Troyanis. Bellum Gerabon. Carson?
we were with the church.
Yeah, waged war. Okay, Gero could be like waged or carry out or managed. And when it's like war is its direct object, which is what's happening here, it's definitely just going to be waged. So wager was, or in this case were, rather, waging. Either way, it could be waged or was waging. Sorry, were waging. War, right? So this is like how Caesar conquered Rome in that sentence I wrote, where it's like in the Latin it's subject, direct, object, verb, but in the English we want it to be subject, verb, direct,
Does
object.
this one have a future perfect?
I don't think so. Maybe. I think most of these are going to be like perfect or
Are these
imperfect.
what the sentences are going to look like?
No, actually, because this is back in chapter 12. So the homework sentences, we'll look at, like, they'll look at, like, some of the examples we saw during the
Are
notes.
they going to be easy?
They're not going to be hard. They're never hard. It's just 5. I actually considered on the way to work today, I was like, should I give them 7? Should I assign 7 sentences? And I was like, no. You know what? No. So y'all aren't allowed to ever complain since I keep it so light. The homework, that is. The Greeks were waging war. Cum Troyanis, anyone out loud? With the Trojans. Yeah, Carson already said that. So that's just a ablative object of cum. All right. Now, okay, we have some words we've never seen before. So let's gloss them. Equus, we actually have seen before. It just means horse. What English words do we get from equus? Anyone out loud?
Guacamole. That's what it reminds me of.
How does it sound? Equus sounds like guacamole.
I don't know. That's what I remember.
Ain't none of those sounds be the same at all. No, equestrian. If you like are into horseback riding, John's about to get moved. I don't know if it's John or Connor, but y'all are making this class sound annoying. So rough on the ears. So equestrian, okay. Ligneus is wooden. Herbs is city, like urban. Nocta just means at night. It's nox, noctis, night in the ablative. It just means at night. So where's our? I see something about a magnum equum lignium, but this verb that means leave behind. What person and number is relinquent back here? Richard, Caden, Nathan, or Miss Fisher? It's actually just good old present tense. It's from a verb we've never seen before. But I want to know, like, who's doing it? Who's leaving something behind? I, you, it, we, all, they. Huh? They, right, Caden? Because it's what person and number? It's third plural. Third plural. So, and I'm not saying a nominative plural in the sentence. So I don't know who or they is. So I'm going to use they. They leave behind. And now one of these words at the beginning of the sentence that I'm not even touching yet before I mess with my verb at the end. They leave behind a what? Anyone? We're probably talking about the Greeks. The Greeks were waged war with the Trojans. They leave behind a Aiden. What kind of horse? Magnum lignium. A great, and this is a new word, wooden horse. A great wooden horse. So the actual direct object itself is equum, and it's sandwiched by two adjectives. So that's just the first three words with this last word, the verb, which contains our subject. Right, where do they leave it? Sub portis urbis Troii.
Well, that's under something.
Under, we haven't seen porta porti in a while.
Door.
Yeah, under the doors. Urbis.
Under the door, city. Under the door of the city of the church.
Good. Yeah, yeah, the city of Troy. Actually, that's kind of weird. It's like a double genitive. So it's under the gates of the city of Troy. So yeah, I'm using two different shades of pink to try to differentiate. Like those are actually two different genders. What?
What does black mean? It's not important.
Black is like what I like. Subjects stay black, and then verbs and like adverbs all stay black. It's just direct and indirect objects and objects of preps that change colors. Sometimes I use purple or like light blue or red for verb tenses. Purple right now would say that something's perfect
And
tense.
then to leave behind, I guess. So you're supposed to leave behind.
Oh yeah, those would have. Yeah. I would, yeah, good catch. It would be kind of weird to put behind after all of that. I mean, you could, but it'd be weird. All right, then what? The Trojans, equum ibi. Ibi is there. We haven't seen it in a while. What is invenio? Anyone? Venio is to come. Invenio is to. No, it's to come blank.
Come there.
Come up on.
What?
AKA to find. Let's just think of video as find. Like when you invent something, it's like you're finding an idea. So the Trojans, it is present tense find the horse. Where? Ibi?
There.
They find it there. And then again, Nocta is just at night. Trojans found, find. It is present. Let me add. Want to be specific. The coffee today is not very good, guys. It's cool, but just want to say that. I really want to. I want to like eat an egg McGriddle. What an egg bacon McMuffin? Yeah, something. That'd be good. Trojans find the horse there. Questions? All right, and now they're talking to each other. Okay, these Trojans, they walk up, they find this wooden horse. Somehow, I guess the gates are open because they're under the gates. It's not like the gates are like closed on it. So the Greeks, what? Dedico dedicare means to dedicate. So the Greeks dedicate equum Minervae. Who Minerva be, y'all? That's the Greek name of my favorite goddess, Athena. Yeah. So the Greeks dedicate,
The horse to Athena.
the horse to Athena. So dedico takes a direct object and an indirect object. You dedicate a direct object to an indirect object. So Greeks dedicate the horse to Minerva, they say, if, and then something about donum Graecorum ad templum dea, but Ducamus. Okay. If, what's the subject of this condition? So let's come back to everything right after the word if and look at Ducamus. Danny or Aiden, Ducamus, is it first, second, or third? If, two. Ducamus.
It's first.
First, singular, plural? Which one? Yeah, so it's if who. I, you, it, we, are, they. If we. So if we, and what does Duco mean? It means to lead. If we, it's technically future will, but we don't want to say will. If we lead, now we're ready for donor. If we lead anyone out loud? Donum? The gift, Grycorum. Whose gift? The gift blank the Greeks. Of the Greeks, it's genitive. If he leaves the gift of the Greeks, if we lead it to the temple, go figure, this means temple. The temple, not just the temple, but the temple of a goddess, I guess Minerva. Then what? Hakim habebimos. It's still first plural, so it's we will have Hakim. Yeah, peace. Good. And we will blank a vitam of boni fortunae.
Something like gifts.
It's actually, so it's not giving gifts now. So it's like we will have peace, and will. I'm giving it away now. And will agar can be like act or do, but you don't act a life. You what? What do you do to a life? You don't act or do it. You live it, or you lead it. We will lead. So we will have peace, and we will lead a life of good fortune. So there's like a compound result. A condition is made up of the if part, like if blah 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 happens, then blah 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 happens. That's a result.
And then they were taking a horse in for the next day, and then the surgeon were like, "No, thanks, go after horse and grade."
Yeah, like we of course tragically know what happens here. You guys will know it more in depth in the ninth grade when you read Iliad.
Gortun, what?
Oh yeah, Gortun. I
love
left.
Gortun so much.
I left that because I know I fixed it on the next slide, but yeah, Gortun. So guys, these are both feature tips. Really like all the time in the purple I also use for feature along with light blue. It's kind of confusing. But like conditions are always feature tense, but you don't actually want to say if you will blah blah blah, then you will this. Just drop the first will and the condition part of it. But you can whip them out on the result part. And we're all writing this out, Miss Moriarty. Okay, you're following along. And Jake and anyone else, Antonio. I'm not doing this for my health, guys. We're learning a dead language here. Yeah.
We don't
Okay.
need to
Don't
know
worry,
this.
your clone is
It's dead.
teaching it.
Like
My clone is teaching it. And yeah. I'm being really bad about the math today, but I realize like how much I really hate it. And guys, I got vaccinated. So like I'm not saying like I'm supposed to wear the mask, but like I wouldn't worry about it if I were.
vaccinated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do like one or two more.
I got vaccinated.
So said Laocoon, Sacer dos magnae virtutis sapientiae
They're sacking wrong.
audet populum moneri. So, but Laocoon, who is Laocoon? He is a sacerdos magnae virtutis sapientiae
Peace.
He's a priest. So, but Laocoon, a priest, magnae virtutis sapientiae
Great priest.
Something. What case is magnae and virtutis and sapientiae? It could be nominative. Not with virtutis there. Virtutis is from where to? Huh? But what case are they? Like what? He's a priest, comma wisdom. Maybe they're descriptive. Huh? Yeah. Yeah. Right. Devin. Good. So he's a priest. What? Carson, tell us. He's a priest. No, what do we use to translate the genitive? Starts with an O. Of, yeah. He's a priest of great virtue and wisdom, okay? That is kind of tricky. Because, I don't know, like, these AEs, they could probably be anything. But virtutis, that's from virtutis. That's a genitive.
$10, she's going to tell them not to take it in.
Yeah, this is, like, he is, like, the only smart one somehow. Maybe they're so exhausted from a decade of war. But if you think about a decade of war, that's, yeah.
Isn't that like 10 years?
This is the end of the ninth or maybe the beginning of the 10th year. Yeah. That's what it's supposed to be. So maybe they're so exhausted that their brains are fried. And they're like, oh, yeah, like, it's a horse. Like, it's totally, this is not a trap. It's like,
Why didn't the priest just smile the guys inside the horse?
Well, he doesn't have that power. But
God, power.
he comes up. He's a priest of great virtue and wisdom. And he, what does audeo mean? Truth or?
Wisdom.
What's that game? Truth or what?
There.
So he dares to Moneri populum.
Give money.
No, what is Moneri? Or what's that thing the girls did to the teacher about the danger?
Warn.
Yes. So he dares to warn populum.
I told her my name was like to warn her.
Yeah, he dares to warn the people that sine ratione cogitatis. He's telling them. Without what? Without
Rational
it, basically it can be reason. It can be so without reason. What cogitatis? What does cogito mean, Nathan? Cogito means to. I'm asking just. Nathan, I need to reel it in. It's a little chaotic. What does cogito mean? To. No. What does cogito mean, kid? To think. No. Who's thinking if it's cogitatis? OST must have sent. Huh? That'd be cogito or cogito. Huh? So is it first, second, third, singular, or plural? OST must tis cogitatis. So it's not I or we, it's yeah. So he's saying without reason. He's like, y'all think without reason, oh Trojans. Y'all think without reason. If what? Copii in equo. Huh? So something in the equo. What is equo again, guys? It's a horse. And what he's saying, supplies are on the horse? Yeah, troops, good. So, but how do we put this together? If troops in the horse are? What's the way of saying that? Yeah, if troops are in the horse, or we can even whip out there. If there are troops in the horse, then what? Magno in periculo erimus. Erimus is kind of crazy.
Something that you will be in great danger.
You? Erimus. Huh? We will be in great danger. Good. So I busted out. I went made the perfect tense and go away to remind you guys that ero, eris, erit, erimus, eritis, runt is the crazy future tense version of sum essa, right, Dugan? We're definitely gonna have to bust up this little triangle of girls right here because they're distracting each other. And then Richard and Miss Fisher need to also. Oh, I don't care. So erimus is we will be. So we will be in great danger. It's kind of weird that great and danger are sandwiching in. But that's Latin for you. Yes.
My question is, if the Trojans are this dumb, how did they put up with 10 years of war?
Maybe
They
it
just
shouldn't
have
have.
a lot of men to murder.
Maybe
That's
it.
like the longest war in the world.
Well, no, it's not at all, right? I mean, America's been engaged in a war for almost 20 years, right? Like right now, it's not over. But anyway.
War is not over.
Huh?
War is not over.
In Afghanistan, it never ended. I don't know why I'm laughing, but it's just like a lot of these wars go on for a long time. Vietnam went on for almost 20 years as well. A little bit before y'all's parents were probably even born. But anyway, yeah, wars are long. Maybe it should have been shorter if they like weren't. Maybe they are kind of dumb, and like that's part of the reason why I went on so long. So numquam, what is numquam? Anyone out loud?
Now.
No, it's like a very strong non. It's the opposite of semper. No, it's just never. It's just never. So never debetis. We're still talking about y'all. He's saying y'all never. No, what's debeo deberi? It's not O. It's should. Y'all should never. Credo cratera is to believe, Miss Dugan. Y'all really need to stop talking over me. Y'all should never believe Greikes. The Greeks, yeah. Credo takes the dative. Y'all should never believe the Greeks, for the Greeks semper sunt falsi. I mean, what do y'all think falso means?
The Greeks are dirty liars.
So he's saying y'all should never believe the Greeks because the Greeks are always false. You all should never believe a Greek. Oh, it says a Greek? No, it should be the plural Greeks. Except for Laocoon. Laocoon's not stupid. That's like the tragedy of Laocoon, right, Miss Fisher? Yeah, we're
He should have just ran away.
yeah, I mean, he should have like ditched them, I guess.
Exactly.
All right, this is when it gets cool. I don't think I have a slide for this. Then, what is a hosta? Anyone? Hosti? It's yeah. So then he, and tundra is to strike. He strikes the horse. Hosta?
Pasta.
Add a preposition.
What, do you like pasta?
with a spear. Yeah. So I don't have. We went too far because I didn't have the intensive pronouns. Y'all can bust out your textbook. Y'all have like a minute and a half to do homework. But I'm technically out of slides. All right. I'll see y'all tomorrow to finish the story, and then we'll actually do some chapter 13 practice.
What do you do when you run out of Pokemon years?
I mean, that would take a long time, right? I think I can make it to May. All right, e-learning kids, I'll post the homework, but it again is, where is it? 109. Oh, no one's here. All right, goodbye.